Have you ever wondered why you can't seem to put your phone down, or why you feel a pull towards social media platforms? This is a question that has puzzled many of us, and the answer lies in a tiny molecule known as dopamine. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter found in our brains, is often referred to as the feel-good hormone. It plays a pivotal role in how we experience pleasure and motivation. Every time we eat our favorite food, listen to a great song, or even when we receive a like on a social media post, our brain rewards us with a hit of this feel-good hormone, creating a sense of satisfaction and happiness. But here's the twist. Our brains are wired to seek out and repeat rewarding experiences. And in our modern, digital age, technology and social media platforms have exploited this natural inclination to an alarming degree. Social media platforms, with their constant streams of updates, likes, comments, and shares, are designed to be addictive. Each notification, each scroll, each like is a potential dopamine hit, a reward that our brains crave. It's a cycle that keeps us locked in, constantly seeking the next hit, the next moment of validation, the next reward. In essence, our brains have been hijacked by these platforms. We've become dopamine addicts, constantly seeking that next rush of pleasure. Our phones, tablets, and computers have become our dealers, always ready to provide us with our next fix. So, the next time you find yourself reaching for your phone, remember, it's not just a harmless habit, it's a carefully crafted cycle of addiction. And at its core, it's driven by our brain's desire for dopamine. It's a desire that's hard to resist, a desire that's been exploited by the technology we use every day. So, at the core of our inability to disconnect from our devices lies our brain's desire for a dopamine hit. And that's a modern-day addiction that we all need to be aware of. But what exactly is dopamine, and how does it influence our behavior? Let's delve into the realm of neuroscience. Dopamine, often referred to as the feel-good hormone, is a type of neurotransmitter. Your body makes it, and your nervous system uses it to send messages between nerve cells. That's why it's sometimes called a chemical messenger. Dopamine plays a significant role in how we feel pleasure. It's a big part of our unique human ability to think and plan. But it doesn't work alone. It's part of a quartet of hormones that influence our mood and behavior. These are often referred to as the happy hormones: dopamine, oxytocin, endorphin, and serotonin. Each plays a unique role, but they all work together to keep our mood balanced and our behavior in check. Now let's discuss neurons and neurotransmitters. Neurons are specialized cells that transmit nerve impulses, while neurotransmitters are the chemicals that allow neurons to communicate with each other. When a neuron releases dopamine, it crosses a tiny gap called a synapse, binds to a receptor on a neighboring neuron, and sends a signal. This process happens millisecond by millisecond, choreographing a dance of signals that control our every thought, feeling, and action. But here's where things get tricky. The pleasure we feel from dopamine is so potent that it can lead to wanting to repeat behaviors that trigger its release. This is how habits form. When the behavior is repeated often, like scrolling through social media or reaching for a sugary snack, the dopamine system can become overstimulated. This overstimulation can lead to addiction-like behaviors, as we seek out the dopamine rush again and again. In the grand scheme of things, dopamine is a crucial player in our brain's complex machinery. It guides our behavior, shapes our desires, and influences our decisions. It's like a powerful puppet master pulling the strings behind the scenes of our lives. Our brains are indeed complex machines, with dopamine playing the role of a powerful puppet master. Now that we understand the power of dopamine, what happens when we become addicted to its effects? Consider this. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's often described as the brain's reward chemical. It's released when we do something we enjoy, creating a sense of pleasure and satisfaction. But when we become addicted to the surge of dopamine, the consequences can be detrimental. Our lives start to revolve around seeking that dopamine hit, often at the expense of our well-being and productivity. We may find ourselves incessantly checking our phones, obsessing over social media likes, or binge-watching series after series, all in pursuit of that dopamine rush. This constant need for stimulation can lead to decreased productivity as we're continually distracted, our attention fragmented. But it's not only our productivity that takes a hit. Dopamine addiction can strain our relationships too. We become so enamored with the instant gratification that dopamine provides, we can neglect the people around us. Our interactions become shallow, our connections superficial, We may find it hard to engage in deep, meaningful conversations or to simply be present with our loved ones as our minds are always craving that next dopamine fix. Even our health is not immune to the effects of dopamine addiction. Chronic dissatisfaction and stress can lead to a host of physical and mental health problems, including anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, and even heart disease. This is because our bodies are not designed to be in a constant state of high arousal and stress. When we're always chasing that next dopamine hit, we're essentially keeping our bodies in a state of fight or flight, which can take a significant toll on our health over time. So the impact of dopamine addiction is far-reaching, affecting every facet of our lives. It's not just about seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, it's about how our incessant need for dopamine can lead us down a path of chronic dissatisfaction, stress, and ultimately, ill health. Dopamine addiction, like any other addiction, has the power to control our lives, often with detrimental effects. So, how do we break free from the grips of dopamine addiction? Enter the concept of the dopamine detox. Imagine it as a reset button for your brain's reward system, a bit of a spring cleaning for your neurons, if you will. In a world brimming with immediate gratification, our brains have grown accustomed to a constant flux of dopamine. A dopamine detox is a conscious effort to reduce these dopamine-triggering activities. This doesn't mean you need to live like a hermit and shun all forms of pleasure. Instead, it's all about moderation and strategic abstinence. Think of it as a diet for your brain. You wouldn't eat cake for every meal, every day, right? So why should your brain be constantly gorging on dopamine? A detox allows you to reduce the sugar rush of dopamine and instead nourish your brain with more balanced and sustainable sources of happiness and satisfaction. The benefits of a dopamine detox are plentiful. By resetting your reward system, you can improve your focus and productivity. Imagine being able to concentrate on a task without the constant need for a dopamine hit from checking your phone or browsing social media. A detox can also foster better relationships. Less time spent on dopamine-triggering activities means more time and energy for meaningful connections with others. This can lead to increased empathy, deeper conversations, and more fulfilling relationships. Above all, a dopamine detox can enhance your overall life satisfaction. By regaining control over your dopamine triggers, you can start to derive pleasure from simple things again. A beautiful sunset, a meaningful conversation, a good book. These can all become sources of joy once more. The key takeaway here is that a dopamine detox isn't about denying yourself pleasure. It's about teaching your brain to appreciate the smaller, more sustainable sources of happiness, and not just the big dopamine hits. It's about regaining control over your life. Remember, you're not abstaining from joy, you're refining it. A dopamine detox isn't about abstaining from pleasure, it's about regaining control over your life. But, is there a secret to stimulating the production of happiness hormones and becoming truly happy? The answer is yes, and it's simpler than you might think. It's not about seeking the next big thrill or scrolling endlessly through social media feeds, but rather about embracing a lifestyle that naturally promotes the production of our happiness hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Exercise is one of the most effective ways to stimulate these hormones. Whether it's a vigorous run or a tranquil yoga session, physical activity triggers the release of endorphins, often referred to as the body's natural painkillers. They create feelings of euphoria and general well-being. Meditation is another powerful tool in our happiness arsenal. By focusing on the present moment and letting go of past regrets and future anxieties, we can boost our serotonin levels, the key hormone that stabilizes our mood, feelings of well-being, and happiness. And let's not forget the power of social interaction. Engaging in meaningful conversations, spending time with loved ones, or simply sharing a laugh with friends can stimulate the release of oxytocin, often referred to as the love hormone. This hormone plays a significant role in building trust and bonding, and its effects can leave us feeling content and connected. But perhaps the most important piece of the happiness puzzle is balance. Constantly chasing dopamine hits, whether from likes on social media, the thrill of a new purchase, or the allure of a sugar-laden treat, can lead to a cycle of addiction and dissatisfaction. True happiness doesn't stem from these fleeting moments of pleasure, but from a balanced life filled with meaningful experiences. This might mean taking time for self-reflection, pursuing a passion, or helping others. It might mean saying no to distractions and saying yes to opportunities for growth. It's about recognizing that happiness isn't a destination, but a journey that involves ups and downs, achievements and failures, joy and sorrow. In the end, the secret to happiness isn't in the pursuit of constant dopamine hits, but in living a balanced and fulfilling life.